All right, I see a few of us here, and I'm going to go ahead and get us started. I think, make sure I've got some vocal there. I do. And this is a plenary session. Hi, Michelle, and then we got Mark here with us. And what we're going to do tonight is basically just take a kind of a look-see at the case follow-ups. I've got some that I wanted to share with everybody so they could see some of the good work that they did. And then in addition, I wanted to give folks an opportunity to talk about their I was going to go through some of the case follow-ups and then talk about the group software projects. Hi, Colin. I'm glad to see you here as well. And then call it a night. Now, what I'll do is I'll add a lecture and kind of a lab session on probably Tuesday or probably Wednesday. And then next week, we'll have one final session, and that's we'll be doing that. We'll be looking at what I've asked you guys. I gave you guys an assignment on business movies, and I'll give you an opportunity to share what you did. This is a plenary session, so as I'd said in the email, all hands on deck, and we're trying to handle this like a hybrid course. So we should have a lot of us, and I think we're starting early, so I'm certain that we'll have quite a few people. Now, what I intend to do is to essentially go through the case follow-ups and those that I thought that were worthwhile to take a look at, certainly. And then we're going to look at the group software projects as well as these case follow-ups. Some of you did some really good work, and so I wanted to give an opportunity to talk about that some. Now, let me get myself back over to Now, you're going to see a lot of stuff on the screen you don't normally see because you're getting my view instead of just a student view. So there'll be a lot of stuff that's hidden there that I've got stored that you're not going to see. But I'm going to start with I'm going to take a look at the case follow-ups because I wanted to visit with everybody about them and just do a little bit of coverage. So one of the things about Canvas that I don't like is that it's got things kind of strangely organized. For example, like they have a syllabus, and when you click on the syllabus, you think you'll see a syllabus. Well, what you really do instead, what you get is a summary of the course with a listing of the assignments. So, that really shows you, in terms of what's due and when and all that business, which is nice, but that's not really just what a syllabus is. So that's one of the things that probably is confused people. Then they've got this thing divided into quizzes to assignments. I've just put everything under assignments so that you can see them. Now, what I've been doing is you may have worked ahead, and if you've worked ahead and it's not showing up in your point totals over in Jupyter grades, don't worry, I'm going to get there. I'm just grading as we go along, as we go week by week. So some of you are going to see you might see a an absence of a score, and maybe if you worked ahead, but that will get caught up. And I wanted to talk about the case follow-ups and go over them. And so I'm going to go back over here to the modules for just a moment and get the instructions, because I provided some for us, and I tried to provide us some kind of guidance in terms of what we were after, and I wanted to talk about that for just a minute. So click on the module, then go over to the case follow-ups, and I've got a very extensive set of criteria here, and the reason is this. First of all, the cases, they've happened, they've occurred, they've been reported on. So what I like to do is give you an opportunity to do a follow-up on those and find out if there's been anything additional that's occurred. And often what you'll find, there is some information out there. You might find it through trade sources. You might find it through maybe journal searches that you do, maybe things in the newspapers, like online, like the Wall Street Journal, whatever. And part of it also is to just challenge you to learn about and see all of the resources that are out there for you to learn about a company. And this is part of this thing of talking about building a little bit of understanding some about business intelligence, and to go out and get some information on a company to hone your skills in some of that regard. So the other was to kind of walk you through and again, it wasn't an exercise in writing a paper. Okay. That really was the least of my worries. What I was after, it was this basically, to make sure that you saw that there are multiple ways and sources to learn some information about a company, but then also the process of following up and kind of closing the loop on it. And you can read those bullet points faster than I can, than I can read them off to you. I think probably what I looked at the most was two things. First of all, what motivated you to select the course? Why did you Why did you choose a particular case? And many of you gave me some really excellent, interesting ideas. The second, the other thing that I was really interested was trying to find a linkage between the case and the applicable theory in the text. Now, this is a really important thing for your growth as a professional. And one of the things that maybe we don't do for you that we should is talk to you about what does it mean to be a professional. And the MBA is a professional degree. And when you're a member of a profession, there are three things that you have. One of them is you have what we call a common body of knowledge, a CBK, a generally accepted set of knowledge and skills that you ought to be able to master. And so that's a piece of it. The second would be is, do you have peer-reviewed types of publications? That is where new ideas are applied, called things called theories, or where new theories are talked about. And thirdly, the third is, you not only have kind of what we could call an orthodoxy, but you have what we call an orthopraxy. Are there practices that are linked back to theory? And this is really this whole approach, and particularly the case study method, which was pioneered by Harvard Business School, is intended to, in many ways, mimic what happens with people in medical school. When people become a doctor, they go to 4 years of school, then they go to med school, then they go to residency, where they actually live and breathe, and they actually practice under a mentor. And so, and that gives them and the people who are mentoring them, okay, usually the resident surgeon or resident physician or whoever, gives them an opportunity to help them grow and to learn, because obviously you don't want them to go out and kill people. You want them to save people's lives and to know what they're doing. So we've tried to take that in business and use the case study as a way to give you an opportunity to do a post-mortem and on a situation. And so I'm always interested in how you link theory to practice. And that's what really separates a professional from somebody who's just working in a field. Now, what you're going to find is that many times there will be some theories that just don't hold a whole lot of water out in the real world. And that's because they're theories, but theories are really a way for us to build explanations and to try to understand causal elements, and to say, okay, why does a company, how is it that a company grows itself out of business, which happens all the time? Why is it that employees can be given all kinds of rewards and incentives and still maybe not want to perform? Why do people resist? And this is a thing in information technology, and the Perelson text certainly addressed it a lot, is why are people so resistant to new technologies? Why is, and this, look, people's resistance to it is not, there's nothing new about that. There's been resistance to technological changes in the workplace ever since we started organizing ourselves into business units, and people started working for an employer. It's not been that long ago. It's maybe 120 years, 150 years, where most people didn't work for somebody except themselves. You were the butcher, the baker, the proverbial butcher, baker, candlestick maker, or you probably were a farmer, and you basically worked for yourself. And if you were a tenant farmer, you gave a piece of the action to the landowner. This idea of professional managers, people who run a company, who own shares of a company but didn't create it, didn't start it, is a very, very new thing. So business schools have tried to, in some ways, mimic what goes on in medical schools. The problem, obviously, is that when you're dealing with the human body, there's a lot that we don't know, but there is a lot that we do know. And when you're dealing with chemicals and compounds and blood pressures and all kinds of things, you can be pretty predictive on what's going to happen. But no one can really predict what might happen when a company embarks upon a new strategy, or a company tries to do something different, or they enter a new environment. You just don't ever know. And so we try to provide some case studies, at least in this course. That's why I use the Perelson text, that I think are generalist enough that at some point in your experience, you're going to run into them. And remember, what I've said is that IT is decision-centric, not software-centric, not machine-centric or hardware-centric, but decision-centric. How does it help me make decisions? And I've really tried particularly with the cases that we've done, to talk about this notion of a dashboard. How do I get that information, and how do I handle it and work with it? And so we saw how we used, for example, Excel. I used it like a database, but also used it to do some data analysis for it. And we looked a lot at databases, because in so many ways, databases, as we've found out, are a way sometimes that a company expresses in the most explicit means, other than its advertising, what's important to it. Because the old adage, what gets measured gets done. And so, as we talked about those dimension tables, that notion of a data warehouse, and how that feeds into a fact table, which is a transaction, which is a transaction table. Fact table is a list of events based upon all these attributes. And so we're always trying to find that linkage between theory and practice. We're trying to find that linkage between our conceptions or our beliefs about what's going on out in the world, or going on in our company, or both, versus what's really happening. And that's an awfully tough thing to do, because companies often will get built to a mission, and the companies are like people. Because they're peopled, they can fall into superstition theories, believing that because we did it this way 50 years ago, we could still do it this way today. Some companies got lucky. It's the only thing you could say, and their good fortune is not based on anything they did, except they were lucky. And throughout the textbook, especially the Perelson text, and I think it's part and parcel of every business course you'll take, you always need to be thinking about this dynamic of strategy, and it's kind of what I call the nature versus nurture issue, and that is, does a company become great? Does it become sustainable? Does it do well because it fits or aligns with a certain environment? And that would be Porter, who talks about those 5 dimensions, those 5 ways that a company fits. That Porter analysis is so, it's just so permeates the thought processes of business people, because it's been kind of the dominant theory out there. The relative power I have with suppliers, or relative power I have with customers, that kind of all of those five dimensions. Then you also have, though, another, and what I kind of call the nurture piece, the nature piece, because the Porter would be kind of the nurture piece, excuse me, and that is, do I have a great company because I have great people who really work hard, who really know what they're doing, and who really know how to design stuff. Now, if I sound a little bit like a salesman, I'm doing that for a reason. If you had asked Steve Jobs, why is Apple so dominant, he would have never have said, well, because we miniaturized everything. He'd say, because I had a fantastic idea and I'm one of the smartest people in the world, maybe one of the smartest to ever live. Okay. And maybe, just maybe, he kind of walked into it. Somebody was going to create a cell phone. We had cell phones for a long time. Just turning them into a computer became an issue. Designing computer softwares and turning them into a personalized object, that was a whole different thing. So we've had that kind of jockeying back and forth between those two theories. So I was very interested in looking to see how everybody made that linkage between theory and the theory and practice. In other words, what they saw happening in the case and theory. And I'm as you probably have gathered with some of my posts and some of the things I've said and so forth, I am a movie nut. I love movies. I love the process of learning about how they're made. If I could have done anything in the world, I would have been a movie director or producer, and I didn't get to do that. So I'm doing what I do here, but unluckily for you. But I think it's a fascinating business. But I think one of the things that if you think about that, what those people do, they have theories about how actors have theories about how they should inhabit a character. Directors and producers have theories about how a movie ought to be put together. People who do camera work and do sound have theories about how that should be done, and then they try to apply them. And so what we try or hope is that we've kind of filled you with a little bit, maybe giving you a toolbox that at the very least, when you encounter a situation, you could step back and say, well, maybe we should try X, Y, and Z, or maybe this is a factor that's involved. And part of this, again, is this idea of the dashboard and the data that we're getting. And that's why I focus so much on using Excel, which is a real nice model of what we would call an analytical engine, and using Access, which is a very nice model that's of a database, and using that. Well, that being said, I'm going to go pop back over to the syllabus, and we'll take a look at some of these. And I'm going to start, first of all, with case follow-up number 1, okay? And again, I know that people are very touchy about their writing. So I know in our program, in any graduate program, you'll get beaten up enough about your writing. So I don't see any point in pummeling you any further, which is why I really tried to say to you, make it like a memo, make it terse. Tell me, really, I guess where I'm maybe a stickler is in formatting of references. Number one, because Microsoft Word, which is all over the world, has a tool that lets you format references, and the other is that the pieces of a reference are like are classic information information theory kind of thing, and that is they're breadcrumbs. And they're a way for me to find something, and that's why I look in the the name of the journal, the year of the publication, the issue, what number if it was in the issue, and then the pages so I can find it. You'd be amazed at the number of academic journals that exist. So one of the things I want to do was to go through that and walk you through that process. So I've got a speed right here, and I've got a couple of people, a few folks. I'm gonna load this up, so we'll be seeing those. And I want to talk first of all about, and I don't know if she's here or not. Maybe she is. Let's see if she is. Let's see. Stephanie, I'm going to embarrass you a little bit. We'll talk about what you did in terms of your response. And Stephanie did a nice job on the case on Google. Okay. And one of the things she did is she kept a pretty tight organization on it. And again, I try to force you to be as succinct as possible. Okay. So she gave me some of that information in terms of the stock prices, what's going on with them, etc. Then this is where she really did a fantastic job of putting her references together. This is excellent. Now, I understand that it can seem very picayune about reference formatting. I get it. I understand it. Okay. When you're out in the business world, you know, people are at times write very informal sets of documents. And so if you gave them something like this, they're going to look at you. They may look at you 3 times and wonder. But at least for your mind, you want to be able to find it. And so she's done a great job here of giving us the information that we need to go find these sources that she's utilized, okay? And that I can quickly find them. And one of the great challenges that you have is trying to figure out how to format electronic references. They're in so many different, there's such an abundance of them, and they're in so many different formats. And so that's why I encourage you to use the Google tool, pardon me, not the Google tool, but the Microsoft Word tool that will let you format references and do the best you can. You can never go wrong if you have a reference, for example, like what she's done here, by providing me the semblance of you know, the author and some name of the page or whatever, and then a link, okay, and when she retrieved it, okay. So she did an excellent job there in terms of that. Now, she gave me some good findings here, okay, and talking about, you know, where their money comes from, how they make their money there, and of course AdWords and ads. Most people would be shocked if you told them that Google is really an advertising company. They'd say, oh, no, Google is a technology company. Google is a search engine. Google is an ad company. They sell advertising. They've sold more advertising than anybody in the world. If they keep going the right there, they'll sell more advertising than has ever been sold because it just keeps growing and growing. So she provides me with a good set of bullet points. That's another thing. She did very well there, okay? And she really collected, she really made some linkages there back to what we were finding in the text as she did that case study. Then she provided me some nice screenshots here. And here where she's talking about one of the ways that allows me to check the stats on post engagement. Okay, so she gives me a visual, okay, and to look at. So she did a very, very nice job. I was very happy with the work that she did, and so is quite good. The thing that was the strongest part of it, okay, was first the one was the screenshots. That was really very good. But this was quite well done because I can go find that information if I want to. There were some other folks who did some nice work, and I'm going to pop over here. Colin is another one. Colin, if you're here, Colin, I'm going to embarrass you. Colin, are you here? Yeah, there you are, Colin. I'm going to embarrass you. Colin's all muted out. I want to talk about what he did with Lear. I think the Lear case is fascinating because it is a tremendous example of how technology is really changing how people do the design and manufacturing of products. And I would say this. of all of the things that IT has really done has been enabled us to make things on such a customized basis and to control inventories and to handle supply chains. So the Lear case is one of those that I think is a very fascinating case, and one that really talks about is and goes back to one of those questions of the business, links right back to that business diamond that it's there in Perelson. And the question is how well did Lear handle that technology? How well did they do it? And Colin provided me, it just made a great linkage between the theory, okay, and the practice, what was going on in the case, all right? And so he gives us some good information about Lear and some good data here. Then he provides me a link over to them, gives me a shot from social media, what's going on with them in Twitter, okay? And then gives me again, I'd ask everybody, what were you expecting to see? And then did that fit with, did it conform with what you had, with what you saw? So Colin did a fantastic job. I was very pleased with the work he did with the Lear. And I think the Lear is just a fascinating company. Now here, again, he did a great job with the references, and very nicely done. Take a bow, Colin, and and don't be too embarrassed. You're getting some praise. I want to look over at see, I want to pop over here to I want to look at Taylor. Let's see if Taylor's here. See, now some of you are getting some praise, and let's see if Taylor's here. Some of you I don't recognize as far as some of the numbers and some of your monikers there, but Taylor is another person who did a very, very good job. I was very, very happy, and again took the Lear case and did a good job of making that linkage, okay, between theory and practice. And it's one of those where it's got some nuances to it. And what I really enjoyed is this one section here where we begin talking about autonomous cars, okay? This is really, the next big thing. And autonomous cars they're on the way. And I know it sounds fantastic that you'll have an autonomous vehicle. I understand it. It sounds just as fantastical to you as people thought it was fantastical that they would have a car that would have air conditioning. People just really didn't believe you'd ever have an air conditioned car. I remember my grandfather saying he believed they never would have radios in vehicles. That they wouldn't be, the radios he had at home was half the size of a refrigerator, okay? But now everybody's got a radio. So this notion of an autonomous vehicle and what it does is an excellent point. And how do we mesh that? Not only is something just out there in society, but how can a business use it? And again, this piece of this business diamond of where do we fit this into our processes. There was an interesting article the other day I read in the New York Times Online, the business section, and what they're finding is one of the big growth markets right now is in fulfillment centers, because we're having such a continuing growth of sales online, e-commerce. You got to have fulfillment centers. You have to have supply chain to back it up. So the article was about a whole bunch of different little towns that now are employing hundreds or a few thousand people who do nothing but work in order fulfillment. And so I tell my undergraduates all the time, if you're not going and interviewing for logistics companies, you're crazy, because that's where a tremendous amount of growth is going to occur. If you sell it online, you got to get it to the customer eventually, one way or the other. So I thought this was an excellent point, and again, is very happy with what he did there, and provided a nice screenshot in terms of what's going on with Lear and their, take a couple of looks here. Yeah, let's see, Coy, okay. Coy did an extremely good job. I want to talk about what Coy got done here. First of all, used excellent what we call second level headings, okay, to drive my thought process as a reader. Gave me a nice reference, and he did an excellent job, okay, of talking about Google's culture and linking that back to the idea of a matrix type structure. And what we're seeing happen is more and more of what people call pop-up companies. I call them strategic teams, and this will be and you're probably living with this every day, where there's some project that needs to be done, and you get a bunch of functional specialists, and as everything gets more independent, usually you find yourself working with people from other companies. And I think if you look at the Boeing case, where they were building that plane, and all of the suppliers they had from all of those different companies, you could see that this issue of trying to deal with create some type of a culture with all the disparate elements is important. So they did a great job of pointing that out. And I think one of the other things I appreciate is he did talk about how Google tries to push people to be creative, how to move forward, because that's what they're all about. They're sitting on so much cash, they don't know what to do with it. And for them, the nightmare is they're going to miss the next big thing. So they're innovating as much as they possibly can, and trying to buy up as much talent as they can, and trying to find people who can just keep pushing them forward. And so there's an excellent job there in terms of making that linkage between theory and practice. And I really did appreciate that Coy got that done. Finally, I want to talk, I'm going to embarrass Michelle if she's here. She usually is. Let's see, Michelle, are you here? Yeah, I see, there's Michelle. Okay. And I'm going to embarrass Michelle a little bit. She did a great job with Roche. I think one of the most fascinating cases to me was this case with Roche with the new scientific method. I have a very good friend I went to high school with who is a venture capitalist. Now, she has a PhD in molecular biology from molecular chemistry, from Johns Hopkins. She's got an MBA from Harvard, and she's up in Canada. And what she does is she works with a set of venture capitalists who identify promising pharmaceutical startups to purchase. And then they, like any venture capitalist, they bet on them. So it's fascinating when I hear her talk about that business and the enormous risk. And it'd be kind of like, let's say that you go to the casino, you take every dime you have, you throw it down, okay, and you roll the dice, but you're not going to see if you rolled snake eyes or sevens or anything like that for another 15, maybe 5, maybe 10 years. Now, you'd say, Dr. Harmon, how is it you know about snake eyes and sevens and so forth, gambling kinds of things? Well, that's basically, I learned a lot of that from Dean Houghton and his gambling problem he's tried to deal with. So don't blame that on me, blame that on him. But it's that delayed feedback. So for Roche, learning from their failure was quite important. So I thought it was a great case to tackle. She does a wonderful job of organizing it, okay, and really focus this in and focus this in on Roche on the 7 S's, which I think is an excellent fit. This whole idea of this inherently flexible, fast-moving, agile organization is important, and it really is in that business. Although once there's kind of a thing where you come up to a point where then bam, you hit the regulatory agencies, and then you kind of have to work through them, and then you're back. And if you survive that process, then you're in the marketing phase, because they're not going to let you sell stuff to people that's going to kill them. Well, not usually not. But so she did a great job of tying that into the 7 S's, and I thought it was an excellent bit of work. And this is, again, talking about how Roche is trying to use failure, okay, as a way. And she has a great job in terms of resources, and where she got them, and what they're telling us, and then some good information in terms of their social media. They've got Twitter, and I believe they're also on Facebook, if I'm not mistaken. And so a nice job, a summary, everything there that I would need for the follow-up. And again, really honing in this case and linking it into the 7 S's. The Diavini 7 S's was an excellent job. So good job on that. And let me say, I think I made a statement one week, well, I know the cases will get better, and that's always true. But I want you to know, all of you, I really didn't think I saw a stinker in the bunch. All of them are very well done. I tried to choose those that I thought were, maybe had a piece or two of it that were really, really good. So if I list yours out, it wasn't because I didn't think it was any good. It was just simply I tried to find some that had certain aspects of them that I thought really, really stood out. And I think it's good for you to see your each other's work. I don't know how your profs and your other courses handle it, but I remember when I was in grad school, when we had a seminar, we brought our paper in and we all exchanged papers. So there was nowhere to hide. And so it was a really good it was constructive for us. And we built that thing they call a learning community, or a team, because we coached each other through a lot of stuff. And so I'm hoping that you're seeing some examples of some things here, and we'll see them. And maybe that will inspire you to do some work. So I tried to grab bits and pieces of case follow-ups that were I thought were quite good. Now I'm going to pop over to, and I'll have to kind of back out of this here for a minute and go back over to the grade book, and then I'm have to go, yeah, here we go, and then I'll go back to the modules, and let me go to the syllabus, and we'll go to the next set of case follow-ups. And this is the case follow-up too. So we've looked at one, and here's case follow-up number 2. Good. Again, some really, really good cases. And we'll take a look at those. I'm going to pick on some folks again, and I'm going to pick on Stephanie again. Stephanie, I know I'm picking on you a lot tonight. She did the Boeing Dreamliner case, which is I think I wish that the authors of the book would just give us a semester-long case study on the Boeing, on the Dreamliner, because I think that it's every single good and bad thing you could ever learn about how to handle IT has occurred in that process. It was a very ambitious process, and it's hard for us to understand how sophisticated that technology is. It just really is. We get on an airplane and fly. It is an incredibly marvelous thing. It's a miraculous piece of equipment. And she did a nice job of talking about what got her interested in Boeing. Gave us some data about the company, some of its stock activity. Okay, it looks like some intraday trading data and some earnings data. It's good. Okay. Boeing is like a lot of large established firms. They're very sensitive to the investment capital and the market, because they do so much long-term financing that they are really have to hedge with the volatilities that get introduced. When you're building Dreamliners, you're going out lots of years. And let me, before I go too further, I want to talk about the airline industry, because I think it's another one of those fascinating industries. If you want to get a good understanding of how the airline industry got started, let me recommend a movie. Now, it's got some bad stuff in it, okay? People saying some naughty things and doing naughty things. But I think if you want to get a good picture of that, The Aviator is a fantastic movie about Howard Hughes, who is one of the most iconoclastic business people who ever lived. The guy made movies. He started airlines. He helped create a lot of what is now in Las Vegas. Howard Hughes was a force of nature, and that movie in many ways just doesn't do him justice, but it does focus on his development of Trans World Airlines and the kind of pressures that people worked under and that foresight that he had. It's also interesting to me as an Oklahoman, for a simple reason. Wiley Post, which you may have heard his name before, was a pioneer aviator, and his great contribution was the development of a pressured suit. And in fact, in the first missions into space, they basically used a suit that Wiley Post based it on Wiley Post's design. And the idea was to have a pressurized suit so you could fly above the weather. And then eventually, how can we pressurize a cabin so that you can fly above the weather? If you didn't pressurize it, if you see the old movies about World War II where they're up in the bombers and they have the gas mask, they have the masks on, all that. If they don't, they'd all pass out, because at the height they're at, they have to have it. So I think Boeing's a great company. She did a fine job of providing some resources again. And I agree at this point. She just left me wondering where the product actually took off, because it did have some enormous problems that it faced. And she provided some good bullet points and responses to the questions that I had in terms of the case study than some of her expectations. Okay. And yes, it took years of trial and error and billions of dollars to deal with the Dreamliner. And again, I appreciate Stephanie. It was an excellent job. She did a good job. And I think because especially some of her insights about understanding what a beast it is to try to get that many people pulled together. The Europeans, of course, built the Airbus, and they've been pretty successful with it. And the question is, why is it that a bunch of people who speak different languages, okay, and who in the 20th century had at least 2 major wars with each other, how do they all get together and make it happen? Okay, what is it? Whereas we in the United States are relatively homogenized in terms of our language, our culture, etc. And that's an interesting thing to think about. And that's why I think it makes Boeing one of those. It's a fascinating case. You did a good job, Stephanie. Thank you so much. And I wish I could find something I could tell you you did it all wrong, but we're not going to do that. Let me get over to some work that Taylor did. Taylor did a fantastic job just overall. He chose the Hasbro case, which is, I think, one of those interesting little cases dealing with that issue of the question of monopoly and how were they going to take that board game and bring it into the 21st century. Okay, how are they going to transform that product? And this is one of those issues that every entertainment industry has. The entertainment industry has yet to understand that there's always going to be new technology, and it will probably disrupt you. And so all of these games, video games and online gaming systems and so forth, really put a dent in the board games that people used to play. Why play Monopoly, at home if you can, if you can hook up with, 500 other people and have a massive game online. And so this is an excellent case selection. And he has some very, very good, resources here. But what Taylor did that I was really very pleased with was he saw that understanding of how Hasbro needed that help with Amazon Web Services, and how Amazon Web Services could provide them that platform to move their product on and to thrive and survive. So I was so excited with that. A lot of people don't know this, and you do, because you've taken this course. Amazon makes most of their money from their platform. They don't make it from selling stuff or bullying their vendors. They make it selling their Amazon Web Services, their database, and their architecture. In fact, the federal government leases a lot of the Amazon Web Services, and they're other than Walmart, they are the masters of the universe when it comes to that. And one of the reasons that Amazon and Walmart are the two big giants that are getting ready to have a duel to the death is because both of them understand how to build supply chains and how to marry it to technology to make it happen, and to use fulfillment centers. And so this Hasbro case is really good, because here is a business that's trying to stay alive, trying to keep itself going, and using that web service. I also was happy when I saw that Taylor talked a lot about needing to find out what is Amazon Web Services and what is it that they do. And one of the things that we find, and I've been teaching company strategy, I've been working in strategy for a long time, is that normally you're in a business you never dreamed you were. And when I work with a client, I don't as much as I used to, because frankly, I'm getting old and kind of lazy. But I ask them, what's your business? Now, what usually will happen, if it's a large company, they'll trot out a very nice, beautifully written mission statement, and they'll have then a nice set of strategic plans and all this junk, and they'll tell me all about that, okay? And now, my benchmark is a very simple one. I have two benchmarks I use when I talk about company strategy. The first is one that my father gave me. When I was a wee youth, maybe 10 or 11 years old, he was opening some of the stores, and he was putting in the shelves in one of his big grocery stores, and I was there helping him out. And it was 100 degrees outside and hotter than the dickens. And at 10 or 11, you want to play, you don't want to work. And I turned to my dad, and I said, why are we doing this? And my dad didn't even miss a beat. He just looked at me and he said, people have to eat. A very simple statement, but in held a lot. And I thought, and that stayed with me. My dad never had a day of college. He never finished high school. He did his GED. He's one of the smartest people I ever met. And when I was around him, I felt he was probably kind of talking to me like he would a small animal or a child, because he's just so smart. And he had a lot of street smarts to go along with it. I forced him to go get a high school diploma to go take the GED. He took it, and he came out 45 minutes later and said, was that high school? And I said, oh, wow. So he was very smart. One of the other smart people that was my mom. My mom sold Avon. If you've heard of Mary Kay, the progenitor of Mary Kay was Avon Cosmetics, and it was a distribution network, par nonchalance. And my mom sold lots of Avon, and she had ladies selling for her. I thought for the longest time, the only reason that people went to church was to collect Avon money from the people who were there at church. And I remember I asked my mom one time, I think it was maybe in junior high or high school, I said, why do you do this? And she said, it's very simple. When ladies look nice, they feel better about themselves. And I thought, well, that was an interesting thing. So she had kind of an understanding of a mission statement. So this was an excellent selection Taylor made, because this really went to this missional question: how do we take our mission and make it a sustainable one and one that's relevant? So he did a good job there of saying, okay, I'm going to do a little bit of a stretch and find out some about Amazon Web Services, which he did. Made a great linkage. And what he did was he fully recognized, and Taylor could, good job. He saw that the Hasbro was trying to move from a company that made board games to a company that sold subscriptions, a change. Now, there's a company right now that's doing that. It's called Microsoft. They don't want to be manufacturing computers. They want to sell subscriptions and software. And so they're moving into, that's what Office 365 is all about, is a subscription service. They can make a lot more money when they make you and me pay them $200 or $300 a year to download their stuff than to go buy a CD or a DVD or a Thunder or some device to plug into my computer, or go to Best Buy or go to Walmart and get it. They want to get out of all of that. Okay. And what we're going to come to one of these days is that a computer will be a phone or a laptop or a desktop or tablet, will be like a radio. You'll just dial in what browser and what operating system you want to use and go on. Okay. I'll tell you something fantastical. There was a time in this country where there was a great battle between, are we going to operate electric current on AC or DC? And there was a big battle in that, and Edison and his minions won. But for a long time, there was discussion. So this business of what kind of machine do you have, what type of browser you have, that stuff, all of those people are moving away. And so Hasbro is one of those really interesting cases, and Taylor did a good job of popping in on that and seeing that they're moving themselves into a subscription service. So I was very, very happy with what he had to do. Coy, I'm going to pick on you as well. Again, I want to tell you something. I've been so pleased with the work that all of you have done. I can't tell you. It's just the cases have been dynamite. I'm very happy with what I've seen, the way you've organized them, the thoughts, the insights, and it's just wonderful to me. I've enjoyed reading them, and you know, I can't compliment you all enough. He did a good job here, and again, making that linkage between theory and practice, and that case with automated waste disposal, okay, and the use of GPS and the issue of privacy, and you know, what does that mean? A lot of people don't know this. Maybe some of you do. If you work for Walmart, okay, if you work the retail, even if you're a manager, the managers have 8-hour shifts they work, and usually have a head manager, then a couple of co-managers, so you can cover it 24 hours a day. But a lot of people don't know is that the 8 hours, if you work full-time or the equivalent of full-time for them, you might work 3 or 4 hours at a peak time, then you're off, then back for another peak time. You don't just work through 8 straight hours. So they have a very interesting way of allocating their resources and their hours. So this is, I think, this issue of quality of life, especially company privacy, employee privacy, is a big one. Now, where every one of us are going to come into this is going to be in the realm of your privacy and the use of technology to monitor your whereabouts, or the use of technology to find out if you're using substances, or if you have, I think your grandkids will go to work. They'll go to a job interview. Not you and I, and not your kids, but your grandkids will go to a job interview, and they'll have a resume, plus they'll probably have a genetic record, so that employer can find out if this person in 20 years is going to get cancer, or the likelihood they will. You said that's ridiculous. Well, if you have insurance at your company, like I do, trust me, if you look through all the documents, they have the right to share data, and that's going to be one of those issues. So privacy is a big, big issue for all of us. And certainly the issues, this political hot potato right now is this issue of pre-existing conditions for people. Okay, so it was a good case to select, and this just thing of tracking people, and some of the inefficiencies that they worked out were good. Now the question becomes is, at what point do you start treating people like machines instead of people? And this gives me an opportunity to talk a little bit and give you some, if you've not, to learn some about some good business history. And the so-called time and motion studies that you've heard about that were conducted at the start of the 20th century, that were supposed to be were looked upon and frowned upon so badly, their origins were in, how do we keep people from getting hurt? How do we not exhaust people? How do we not take somebody and make them work for 30 years and then break them down so bad physically that they don't have a retirement? It's hard for us to believe or understand that less than 100 years ago, that up here by Tulsa, they had coal mines where they had 5-year-olds mining coal. Okay, so this issue of privacy and monitoring employees and how technologies and how we treat them and use them was an excellent case, and he made a great linkage there on the acceptance of new technology, and again. That's the kind of insight I was looking for, and it was a good choice, and you did a great job. Automated waste disposal, for them, time is money, money's time. You want to get things done as efficiently as possible. It's all there is to it, because they are a distribution system, a logistics network for all intents and purposes. So it was a good choice, and he did a good job there taking a look at it. I had one other from this second one. And again, this is my night to pick on you, Michelle. So, don't let your head get too big. But this is the Johnson & Johnson and their idea of the one face to the company, a customer prospect. Johnson & Johnson is like Procter & Gamble, like General Motors, Ford to a certain extent, certainly Chrysler, any one of these big companies that emerged out of the 30s and 40s, 1930s and 40s, struggle with this issue of, especially if they sell, anybody that sells consumer products, they kind of go through a phase where they start buying up other companies and trying to make connections. Okay, Frito-Lay owns Pepsi, or Pepsi owns Frito-Lay. Why? Because people drink sodas and eat chips when they do that. Oh, wonderful. But there's a problem. If you have customers, they got to be able to interact with each other, and you've got to be able to interact with them in the same way. So this one face to the customer is an interesting case, and deals with that issue of enterprise architecture. And so I thought this was a very, very well done, good explanation of what was her motivation, and a lot of good sources, good analysis in terms of the issues that they're having of trying to use IT so that they have one person who deals with the customer and use it in that aspect. And that's part of that architecture. And that's again part of that business diamond thing, where so much of that business is, in many ways, is a one-on-one kind of thing. doctors, by doctors' clinics get visited by people who sell pharmaceutical products. Okay, uh, uh, the big chains decide to give people shelf space on the basis of a meeting, and Johnson Johnson's like anybody else that's handling all this. They've got to have a way to service their customers. So this is about how they tried to build an enterprise architecture to do very vast. So it's a challenging case in that sense. She did a good job of pulling some social media insights. I was very happy about that. So in terms of the overall job that she did, I was very, very happy with it. And so that was kind of what I saw there in terms of case two. I saw all of you did a good job. I was really happy with it. Let me pull us back out of here for a sec, and we'll take a look at the case follow-ups. And we've done two, and I want to talk a little bit about number three, and then we'll talk about some on four. So find case follow-up 3. And again, let me see who all I have here. Oh, got pretty much the whole crew here. Good. There were 3 of them that I was. There were 3 of those that I really enjoyed. And I'm going to start first of all with Bryce. I thought Bryce did a very, very good job on this case. This is the one of virtually there, okay, and the use of the virtual hosting services and how that's changing everything. You had an experience in this course with using virtual meetings, and it's interesting to me. My colleagues at work, God bless them, you'd think they'd be okay with, but we had a meeting for one of our faculty who was up for promotion, and so I used Zoom. And I said, just here's the thing, link me in, and put your computer in the middle of the room, and I'll be there. Okay, and boy, we had to go through all kinds of dialogue, and I thought it was interesting. Okay, this is something that if you haven't, all of our undergraduate students, I put them through these kinds of experiences, so they're used to understanding. They may go to work for somebody that's got employees in about 8 different time zones and all that type of thing. So I was really happy with his choice there of virtually there. He did a great job of giving us some data about that organization, and then gave us some good posts, some social media data there. And I thought that he did a really good job of making that linkage between green computing and trying to scale distances and using a tool like that, and or like what we're doing here now. There are always issues, and one of them is at a certain point your computer screen gets filled. So that's why I'm not doing all of this on videos. And it's a privacy thing. I'm certain there's some of you who just wouldn't want everybody, is seeing it. So that, and I'm understanding about that. And it takes up a lot less bandwidth. So he did an excellent job, okay, of working with that. Gave us some more social media posts. References done beautifully. Thank you. Nice. Now, I'm going to pop through here again, and I'm going to pick on Stephanie again. This is your night, Stephanie. She did a good job in terms of talking about IT governance. Who owns the information? And here is what I thought that she did very, very well. If there was a takeaway, it's this. She utilized this matrix, okay, and did a fantastic job of using that IT strategy, that governance matrix, and how that all fits together. So the matrix is an excellent piece, and I really enjoyed seeing that. That was well done. And governance is one of those issues that is really interesting, and to me it is, because it really comes down to who owns the information and what do we do with it, and do we share it. And the notion that information can be put off in little cubicles just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But she did a good job with that case, and I was very pleased, particularly with this aspect of the matrix. And that now, if I'm Michelle, I'm picking on her as well. And we'll take a look here. This is the big fix at Toyota. That was a good case. And this issue of the problems that they were trying to do in terms of getting their IT pulled together. And this is where I thought she did a really good job. Michelle did a good job right here. Okay. And that is the role of the CIO. We in business, excuse me, in the past, as we've seen companies at a certain size start to scale up and start to get functional heads, chief financial officer, chief information officer, the chief executive officer, the CEO. We've had these chief officers in these functional areas, and we've seen now the emergence of the CIO, and sometimes the CT is chief technology officer, the chief information officer, and this case that chronicles how this individual came in as a CIO and tried to do some work with Toyota. So I was very pleased with how well she plugged into the narrative of that story, because there was a lot of narrative there, and pulled some information out. But I thought what was really good was that she had she understood that issue of the daily dealer system there at Toyota, and that dashboard type of device. And she provides us a little bit of a picture there from their Facebook. Again, another, and for them trying to stay in contact with their dealers, and it's exceptionally important for them to do that. And so I was very happy with the job she did in understanding how IT we try to do it, to link people up. And again, that's a piece of that business diamond is just how do we get people kind of fitted in, and how does the manufacturer work with their dealers, and for them it's a very tenuous process. So that was quite good. Now I'm taking a little bit of time here, and I know that, and I do appreciate you letting me drone on, but I have just been so really have enjoyed reading your papers and your case follow-ups, and so many times they are just I'm very impressed with what I'm seeing, and all I can say is just keep up the good work. It's just been it was a real joy. We're going to look at case follow-up 4, and we'll just kind of do this on the fly. And I know people were uploading them, and I'm just going to do the speed grader and pop through a few of these. Okay. And let's see, this is going to be Bryce, always well organized, nicely done. He's got some headings. You could use some subheadings here to kind of walk us through this. He looked at the decision to implement total cost of technology, the total cost approach. This is a huge issue, and we spend a lot of money on technology, information technology, and the question is, what are we getting for it? So that total cost approach, and how do we, and what are we getting? We're even having these discussions at the national level where people say, well, we've spent all these percentages of the GDP on information technology, but we're not seeing the kind of productivity boost that we thought we'd see. And now economists are trying to back up and say, well, are we measuring the wrong thing, or what's going on there? So this is an excellent choice in terms of what he did. Now, I've talked about Stephanie's work, although Stephanie, I have to say, I'm glad that you chose The Brain Behind the Big Bad Burger. nicely done. I am a Hardee's fan, as my cholesterol-ridden body would say. And I think this is interesting when you talk. I didn't know how fast to generate revenue and how they have to do it. The next time you go to a fast food restaurant, look around you and ask yourself, how do they cram enough people through this pipeline at enough of a margin to sustain this business in what's usually a pretty high real estate area? Because most of these food chains are not going to put themselves in places unless it's advantageous, and real estate's about location. So how do they do that? It's a marvelous thing when I can drive up to the local Taco Bell and get a giant chalupa. Hey, that my life is better. And if they don't have my chalupa, my day is it's worse. So they've enhanced the quality of my life. Now I'll die early because I have too much of that in my system. But I think this was an excellent insight to say understanding how dependent they are on that technology, and they really truly are. So this is some good insights and about how fragile these companies are, especially these retailers. Retail is a tough business. Here's some work that Lauren did. We'll take a look at this for a minute. And this is using information systems, okay? And the cost savings that are there. And we try to use the IT, and she gives us a nice source there. IT is used to try to cut costs, to try to cut those transactions costs. And you remember CIS law, and that is if a firm can have a transaction, if a firm can have a task performed for it cheaper by an outside vendor than they can internally, they will go with the outside vendor. And so CIS law has played itself out in the role of outsourcing and outplacement and near sourcing and all those hollowing out of jobs when firm says, okay, I can do this a lot cheaper if I do it in this country, or if I move from here to Indiana or whatever. So a good case study, one that's very, very timely. Colin did look at virtual advertising. This is a good case. It's a nice job here in terms of the crowd analytics, crowdsourcing things. Some good information about Omnicom, excuse me. And well done, good set of references. And I'm kind of doing these on the fly, but if I'm not mistaken, this is one that deals with virtual reality and simulations. And again, nice choice, because when you run a spreadsheet, if you haven't had your finance course, you're going to do a lot of simulations, because a pro forma is nothing more than a simulation. It's a forecast. And so this idea of being able to run simulations, it's changed the financial services industry. It's changed about every industry. So it's a good choice there on Colin's part. And we'll look at C. Shane. He looked at Sabre. Okay. 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 And trying to use some code and rebuild that company. And with the travel professionals, good. Here's a company like Hasbro trying to kind of get up to speed in the 21st century. Troon Golf is another one of those. It's very, very interesting case. Good job there. Paul, very good. Here's the Bad Burger. Yeah, very nicely done. The McDonald's, and what they're trying to do, is use some business intelligence in terms of, are we selling these burgers? Are we not? Nicely done. lots of work there. This is another case on Sabre. Taylor is a good choice. Sabre is one of those companies that is trying to stay in business, and there Sabre to me, Sabre reminds me a lot of the New York Stock Exchange, which is fighting for its life to remain competitive with the other stock exchanges that have sprung up around the world. And that is how fast they can get trades executed, data they can get. So to us, Wall Street is the NYSE, but they've got other competitors out there who not only specialize in certain types of companies like NASDAQ did, but now market their technology and their services. So ITSG even changing the market making business itself. This is a good choice of cases. Okay, project management. Yeah. So the Sabre, again, that whole issue of trying to manage that project. Coy, nice job, nice selection. And Michelle, you did. You're tired from doing such good work, so you decided to do Troon Golf, and the total cost of ownership. That's a good linkage, and that's exactly what is at stake there for those folks. And Daniel, nice job here. He looked at Troon Golf, another. Folks looking at that, how much we spend. Lots of work to be done there. Well, thank you, folks. Those are some really good case studies. And we've gone now, it's about 7 o'clock. And what I'd like to do is just take some time now. And what I'll do now, let me see who all is with us. Okay, and let's see if I can stretch this out a bit and see who all I've got. Okay, I don't know who 479. I have no idea who you are. Who is this I'm speaking to or hearing me?
Daniel.
Okay, Daniel, good. Thank you, Daniel. Say hi to everybody.
Hello.
Okay, everybody's heard Daniel. He said hi. Colin, unmute and say hi to everybody if you wouldn't mind.
Hello.
Okay, you've heard Colin. And Michelle, I'm going to unmute you and let you say hi to everybody.
Hi, everyone.
Okay. And then we got Colin, and I'll unmute you. Colin?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Hello.
Glad to have you aboard. Robert, you there? Robert may be getting a beverage of a choice. Who knows? Michelle, of course, is there, and then we got Stephanie. And I'm going to mute you, Stephanie. I picked on you a lot tonight. Have you stayed on, or did you go? Did you shut down the computer? You still here? Maybe they stepped away. Then we got Taylor. I'll mute Taylor. Are you still here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. All right. I want to look at the group project, and we'll go over and take a look at here for just a moment. Oops, I've got somebody wanting to chat with me. Let's see what I got. Okay, Stephanie, thank you very much. Now, I want to go through I'm going to pop back to the syllabus here. And really before I do that, let me come up to the modules and let's talk about what I was asking you to do. Now, the process that you went through in that group project was basically taking some data in one format, and that was in a book, harvesting it, and then putting it into a database, and then extracting it out of that database and doing some work with it and analyzing it a little bit, and then doing some reporting. So what you did was kind of a miniature of the process that we go through when we take information and we try to turn it into something that's decision centric. So that was essentially what we were after there. Now I'm going to go ahead and go over to the syllabus, and we'll take a look at those. And I probably will have some questions for each of the team leaders. So I'm going to start with the access file, and I'll see who might have uploaded it. And we got Bryce. Bryce, are you there? I don't hear Bryce. Okay, let's see. And let's see if we've got Stephanie. You were on Bryce's team. So let me get back to you. We're still sharing the screen, and I want to get the your database. I'm going to open it up. May have to download it. I'll resolve the host on it here for just a second. And let's see what they did. Now, they've done a pretty good job here. Stephanie, what was in terms of creating the database? And let me, I've got you unmuted, so you should be able to answer. In terms of creating the database, what was the most difficult part for you? Are you there? Yeah. Okay, I must not be able to hear you. I'm sorry. Let me see if I've got. Okay. Is anybody else having trouble hearing Stephanie?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, we may be having an issue there with you. Let me see if I've got. I hope I didn't mute you. Go back down here. And mute and unmute. Okay. And we're experimenting here. Yeah, that's the problem. Let me unmute you, Stephanie. Now, can you let me know if let me test and see if I can hear you now. Go ahead and tell us about your database. You there, Stephanie? Oh, she's signaling me. Oh, you don't have a microphone. Okay. All right. Let's see who else. Let me look at who all was on your team, Stephanie. I had it written down over here. Okay, Bryce was with you. Let me see if Bryce is here. And I don't see him here with us. Okay. All right. Let's do this. I'm just going to open this up for a minute and let everybody take a look at it. I think pretty good job in terms of what we were after. And any of you who would like to chime in for a moment, and let me just ask you this: in terms of the assignment, how much difficulty did you have in developing the table? And any of you who might have a mic, let me know. And I'll pick on you, Colin. It looks like you have a mic.
Yes.
Yeah. Did you and your team, did you guys have any difficulties developing the table? And if so, what was the database, excuse me, if you did, what was the hardest part for you?
The hardest part for me was the creation of the form.
Okay. And what was it, what difficulties did you run into when you did the form?
I was trying to get the drop down to select true or false.
Okay.
To have a drop down, and going through that was the most difficult. And our question ID actually, it was your chapter number dot 1 through 5.
Okay.
So an auto number for us wasn't really an option, I guess.
Okay.
So.
Okay. All right. Anybody else that has a mic there? I see Robert. How about you?
Yeah, I don't know about on Access, but creating the graphs on Microsoft Excel. I just cannot get them to, I guess, look the way I wanted them to.
Okay.
Yeah, they just, I don't know. That was the hardest part I dealt with.
Okay. The charting on Excel usually is, and I'll take a look at your charts and see. There are a lot of resources out there, but charting can be kind of a pain when even with just some simple types of charting. Let me see who else has got a mic. It looks like Stephanie, you have a mic, do you not? Let me see if Michelle, do you have a microphone?
Yes, I do.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah. What was, for your team, what was the most difficult part of developing the database?
I think kind of Colin was on my team, and I think talking about the question ID that we use, the chapter dot like question 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When we were doing some of the queries, because of that number formatting, I think making sure that we were using the count instead of grouping by, because when you were grouping by, it would still keep them all separate. And so it made kind of these cumbersome queries, and just making sure that we were using the count in the queries instead of the grouping by.
Okay, yeah, that was one of the challenges there of dealing with those types of data, and that's a pretty it's a pretty normal process people go through of trying to handle count data or nominal data and try to do something with them. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and it's usually that's one of those things that I have that I hear from folks about. I want to ask you just a general question to everybody, because I've got in terms of and just let me turn your mics off for a minute. I just want to kind of have a free-flowing discussion. In terms of the charting in Excel, how many of you really had some problems with getting the charts to look like you wanted?
I did.
Okay. And who else?
I did as well. I think I found that pivot table worked, the charts through pivot table worked a little better than the charts just through standard Excel.
Okay. There are a lot of resources out there, and I would encourage everybody to look at them. There's all kinds of stuff about charting you can find on YouTube and so forth. And also, don't forget, the back of the book has some tutorials that will walk you through, but the charting in Excel can become a real challenge. So I would agree with you. Anytime you can use like a pivot chart or something like that, you probably want to do that. It can be a real challenge. I'm just kind of curious about the book. As all of you were going through it and you were developing questions, obviously the idea was to get you to read the book. What did you think about the book? Just give me some feedback. Did you find it interesting? Did you find it helpful? Did you feel like it maybe gave you some new perceptions about things? And I'll just throw the flat open to the floor.
I thought it was okay. I mean, it's just kind of felt like every other textbook I've ever read.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I would comment and say it was. I mean, it's kind of accurate with what I've seen, like in my work experience, just kind of making that drive towards, you know, a lot more collaboration with work, you know, how we're managing projects and things like that. Not necessarily like IT specific, but you know, just for the operations of the company. I mean, the whole like siloing thing between departments, that can't really. You're not going to operate as strongly as a company if you're doing that.
Okay. Okay. Good. Anybody else?
No.
Any other thoughts? No, this was the other. This was the other book. Everybody understands the book that we were talking about.
Yeah. I don't.
That was the one on social.
Hyper-social.
The hyper organization, hyper social organization. How many of you? I get all of your companies have a website. Do they have a Twitter presence and that type of thing?
No.
No. Yours does.
Mine. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
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 The book is intended to be forward thinking in the sense of saying, you know, this is kind of where things are headed to, and I think the jury's out to a great extent. I know that there are some folks, there's some companies like, you know, airlines certainly use it. You know, people are trying to deal with a product issue or something like that, use it to build goodwill. But it was, I was trying to hopefully get everybody's attention that there are these tools out here and they're just kind of evolving and work and being developed, and they do have some potential. And I felt rather than give you a test over, I thought, well, I'd give you a project. Now, how about when you, in just any of you who would want to, when you did did you have any problems writing the queries?
I don't think so.
No.
Okay. Did the lab sessions help you in terms of building some of your skills in working with the database?
I would say absolutely.
Okay.
For me.
Out of how many of you, I guess, would my assumption be correct, everybody, that you had a lot more experience working with spreadsheets than you did databases?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. So it was helpful in that regard of kind of giving you an overview of it and working with it. Good. Well, that was the intention, and again, to walk you through that data cycle where you harvest the data, you clean it up, and then you take it, you store it, and then you access it, and then you take it and analyze it. And that was a process that I was trying to walk you through it. The report functions, I'll be interested to see what you came up with those. And let me ask you, in terms of this, how many of you would have preferred to have done this project on your own without having to deal with team members? Because I've had students in the past say, why don't you just let me do this alone instead of having to deal with a team? And you don't need to identify yourself.
Either way. I mean, you could have gone either way.
Yeah. Okay.
It wasn't hard enough to do. You know, you didn't need a team to do everything, but
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
sometimes it's harder to delegate responsibilities than it is to just, you know, do it yourself.
Sure. Yeah. And I do have students who tell me they would like to go at it. They would rather go at it alone. You have projects at work, and it's kind of a balancing thing. Because you have to deal with some of that stuff at work anyway. And so I've had students say, well, you know, it's just, that's what the world of work is like. And I do in terms of my course design, my colleagues say I should have a social learning kind of thing, i.e. meaning a team kind of thing involved. And my hunch would be at this point, you probably you've been teamed to death. I don't know, because I don't know where you are at your different places in your program. I hope it was a relatively painless experience, although, you know, sometimes you'll run into situations you have some people who are slackers and who are not, who do a fairly good job. And I want to look at here for just a minute here at the someone, who is it that mentioned you tried to do a lookup table with a yes or no question?
Colin was making a form, I think.
Oh, okay. You're making the form. You're creating the form, and you want to have the yes or no in it. Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Now, did you create the table and then create the form?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. The yes no can be kind of it can be tough because it's a forced choice kind of thing, and I know it's a little glitchy in terms of using it in forms. So I'm not surprised at that. What I've found is that typically students will bypass that by just making, instead of using the yes no that's there in the form, in the table design, they'll just use a yes or a no. I've even had some create a lookup table with yes or no as a text to just create a drop down. If you use that format there and then try to apply it over in the form, it can be kind of tough to do it. So I was not too surprised at that. The other thing I wanted to ask you all about was the Excel cases. Were those helpful to you? Did you feel like you built any skills or got any better using Excel? And I'll just throw it open to anybody that wants to respond.
I did, because I have not used pivot tables previously. I've done a lot of other things with Excel with conditional stuff and whatnot, but I've never delved into that piece. So that piece was new for me.
Okay.
Same for me too.
Okay. Anybody else? The last thing I wanted to ask all of you, and I think, you know, I think if we go through each of these, we're going to see some good aspects of these. I want to look at this just a moment. The query, that the group project query, I'm going to open it up. And I'll close this here off for just a second. The table, and let's look at that query. Okay. And this is the count of the chapter. This is what you were talking about in terms of working with the data. And we'll go down over here to the SQL view. All right, we'll go to the design view. There, you just had it. You had to give it a count. Said put it in there, folks. Listen, I think we've covered a lot of ground tonight, and we've gone an hour and a half, and I hope that you got some great encouragement in terms of your cases. And listen, if I didn't mention your case, it's not because it wasn't a good one. I tried to choose some that I thought had bits and pieces of certain things that I was after in terms of what I would consider an ideal. And, rarely do I get one that's just absolutely, the ideal case study. But I hope that for you, a good takeaway was that you got the more work in terms of summarizing your thoughts, but also maybe honed a little bit of your skills in terms of going out and getting some data about companies and learning how to go out and do a little bit of research and do some business intelligence research. So I hope that it was like that and it was useful to you. Let me ask you about those because we've had this thing has been hybrid, which means we've had some people online and some of you who come here to Oklahoma City. For those of you who are completely remote, has the course made you feel like you were engaged? Do you feel like that you were having contact, that you knew what was going on in the course, that you weren't just isolated?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. What could I do to make it better other than to resign my job to make the course better?
I thought the structure was pretty good. I like that you didn't run us 4 hours every Monday night and just
Okay.
did, 2 hours and 2 little breaks.
So you like chunking it out? Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think it would be helpful if I had some more plenary sessions, like maybe have guest speakers or people like that? Do you think that you would be interested in that? If I had someone in who beamed in or was in Oklahoma City to do a dialogue with us or talk with us?
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Okay. Is in terms of your outside work, was it killing you to have to keep up with the course, or was it pretty easy and convenient to get through it?
It was moderate.
Okay. So it's kind of in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many of you are speaking? If you let me know, are there any of you taking more than one course right now with us? Okay. So I've got a hand here. Anybody else? Okay, that's a pretty full load to handle. So, and I'm not sure how they're scheduling everybody in or where you are at your different places, but I hope, if anything, that you've had you've had a pretty good experience. I do want to ask you also about the resources I placed in the lecture piece of it. Those lectures I did. Does that give you some new insights or something to think about? Is it a good use of your time for me to go through some of those resources and share them with you? Do you find that that'd be something helpful, or opens your eyes to some different kinds of things, or lets you feel like you're in graduate school, you're just not plowing through a course?
Yeah.
Well, let me put it like this. The resources I put in those modules, okay, links to different things, do you go and take a look at them?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I hope that you do, and it's there to provide you some additional food for thought as you move through the program. I'm going to wrap this up because I think we've gone pretty far with it as far as we need to go, and we'll have a session next week. I'd appreciate if you'd be there, and that's the plenary session, and we're going to go through and let you share about your business movies that you want to talk about or that you've seen, because I think it's important for us to see there are people out there in the world of the arts that are depicting what happens in business, and I think it'd be interesting to see your take on what's there. And I gave you some pretty specific directions in terms of searches stuff to find and information. So we'll call that. Now, what I'm going to do is either tomorrow or Wednesday, I will be posting another lecture session, and then I'm going to do a lab. Now, please make sure you understand the lab that I'm going to do. I think we've done all the labs, and you should have turned in all the lab stuff. So the lab I'm going to do is just kind of an extra. It's a freebie. And let me go back here for just a minute. I'm going to close this off for a sec and go back. I'll make sure that we are go back to the syllabus part. We've got those turned on. I think you have one lab left to turn in, and we should have already turned in this one that's due the 20th. But when I'm gonna cover just do a lab, but it's just really more for your benefit, just some learning. It's nothing to turn in. Same thing with the lecture, and then we'll meet next week. Now, since we probably, I'll let you know if we're going to meet in Oklahoma City, if those who are ground-based people, if we're going to meet, or I'm just going to do it from my home office. I'll let you know what's going on with that, because I don't know if you'll necessarily have to make you drive all those miles. Since I have so many of us here, before we move on, anybody have an idea or anything I could do that would improve the experience of the course for you? Other than resigning my job. I understand that. Well, let's move past that. And don't worry about hurting my feelings. What might I be able to do to make it a better experience for you?
I'm not sure if I have an answer for that.
Okay. Anybody else?
I think it's pretty good as is. I mean, I think you did a good job of running through all the assignments. I haven't really had any questions or anything, or walked away unsure of what we need to do. So.
Okay. Well, I do appreciate that, and I do want you to understand. I kind of approach it from a different philosophy. I don't try to use the course to sift people or to beat them up. And I think sometimes in grad school you encounter that when maybe you shouldn't. So I hope you understand. If any of you feel like I was too easy, let me know, and I can get you a final put together. I'll make you cry and get sick at your tummy. Otherwise, hopefully it's been something that's got you to thinking about IT and how we use it, as a tool for business. I'm hoping that I got that. That was my main goal, to get that accomplished, to kind of get you thinking about it. And for those of you who are really experienced IT people, I apologize. For those of you who haven't had much experience with IT, I apologize, because everybody comes from such different levels. We don't have a leveling course to get you to when I get you. So your experiences are really all over the map, and so very different. Thank you so much for your time. I will see all of you, quote unquote, next week. If I'm going to be here in Oklahoma City, I will. If I'm not going to be here, I'll let you know. And I look forward to seeing what movies you choose. And I hope you'll be prepared to talk about it, because I think it's going to be interesting to see what 5 movies you chose. And I think it's a good experience for you to learn about looking at a story, and a drama, a movie, a play, or something that's about business, and see what people are saying and what you think the theme of it is. And also some ways to find some sources, because there's some great databases out there. So I'll look forward to that. Thank you so much for your participation. Those of you who are remote, please know if you should have some questions or concern. You're always free to shoot me an email. I can try to set up a phone call or a video conference with you and try to help you out. I hope none of you who are out there are remote, who are working remote, feel remote. I hope you're not. And if you are, let me know and let us know how we can make that better for you. So thank you, everybody, so much. I appreciate your good work. I'm very, very happy with all the good things you've done. And I'm going to go ahead and let's see, I'm going to stop the sharing here. And then I'm going to stop the recording and end the meeting. Thank you, folks. Have a great one, and I will see you next week.